So now the hosta seedlings are at the 3 and 4 leaf stage for many of the small ones, and it's time to start culling. That means throwing away the ones that you don't want, the ones that don't have the characteristics that you're looking for. So we'll start first, as I tip this down, with a set of streaked seedlings, or seedlings from a streaked plant. And you can see I still have it in the humidity dome. And what's in here is a mixture of things. Let's see how good I am with my little pointer here. The first thing to notice is, see this guy right here in this corner? See how that's just all white there? That's called a lethal white, and it's never going to do anything useful. So we can just get rid of that guy. And you can see the roots on lethal whites are always just a little weak. It's hard to get that to focus. So they're never going to do very well. All right, next to that lethal white is this one. And it's all green. So we don't want that one. And you can either pull these out with your fingers, or because I've got these little long tweezer pointer things, I can pull them out with that. And I've got some others here that seem to be solid color. So the solid color ones are also often fairly vigorous, so you want to get them out of the way and let the weaker streaked ones have a little better chance. In fact, I've got 2 of them here, but both of them are all green. There's the first one. And there's the second one. The advantage of pulling them out at this stage is that the roots haven't gotten all tangled together with other ones. You can see how long those roots are on this one though, but they haven't gotten tangled up with the other seedlings, and so it's easy enough then to just clean these up, get all the dirt off of them, and push everything back in place. All right, one more to get rid of here in the middle. All right, everybody else in here has some streaks, so we'll leave those growing for a little while. Sometimes what can be necessary, for example, I've got one kind of hiding under here. He's not very vigorous, but we'll give him a chance by pulling him out and moving him into a better place. So just make a hole somewhere. Often I'll show you that I'm just using an old cheap fork. Make a nice little hole. Use the fork to help lift this one out. Pull this back here. Lift this guy out with his roots. Pop him back into that other hole. Make sure the roots get covered up. And then that one's all ready to go. So another set I have, these are seedlings of the species Plantaginea. So I'm just growing these for the sake of being able to grow them on and give them away or plant them out in the garden, because Plantaginea is surprisingly not so easy to find. So you can let them get pretty crowded, and then at some point I will transplant these into individual cells, 6 packs or whatever I've got around, or even like 3-inch pots that I can then grow on a little bit and give away. And then for non-streaked hostas, this was a cross I made, and I'm interested in the blooms of this, but I'm also interested in the color. So I want a gold one from the pod parent, which is my own birthday candles, and I crossed that with Navajo, which has really, really nice blooms. So I don't really see, I can't tell obviously what the blooms are going to be, but I can see that at least one of these is a green one that I just really don't want to grow on anymore. And the other ones that are under here are a bit weaker. So it looks like out of this set, I've really just got one that I want to grow on. So I could go ahead and get rid of all of the other ones. Just pull them right out. If you have like turtles or chickens or something like that, they love to eat these things apparently. So just pull out these ones that don't don't please me. And in this case, I'm just going to be left with one. And I didn't start very many of these seeds because I was just sort of curious what I might get using my own selection hybrid. And this one can then grow on in this pot for quite a while. What I might want to do even at this point is kind of move it over into the center of the pot, which I can do again with the fork. And then I have culled that set of hostas. Okay, today is May 4th, and it's time to do what we call up-cupping, which is to take any hostas that are combined into their seedling containers and break them apart into different containers. First, I want to show you, just to give you an idea of size, this is one from the last bit of film where I had selected just this one plant out of this, and you can see now how big it is. I will just leave this one in its cup until I decide whether or not I want to put it in the garden. So I'll make sure I get a good tag in it at some point, but you can see it could be an interesting one. This one's one I'm curious about what the blooms look like, so I probably will want to grow this on for at least a year to see how it blooms. Other ones that I have to pot up these are seedlings of Hosta plantaginea, so they should all be pretty much identical. I'm going to pot these up and use them as gifts to garden visitors because as lovely as plantaginea is, it's actually not that easy to buy. So they make lovely gifts. I have also, similar to that, these are all across with plantaginea, and I will need to grow these on because you don't know how well the fragrance is transferred to the offspring. So plantaginea was the pollen donor on these, and I get some sense that maybe I'm pretty sure that the pollen actually took. It can be a hard thing with plantaginea. So I'm going to break these up, and these will have to grow on until they bloom so we can put our nose to them and see how they do. And then also for comparison, I have this cup that has a bunch of streakers in it, and I'm going to go through and probably pick my favorite 3 out of these and put them into individual pots. So for pots, I've just got, collections of square pots that you get from when you're buying your herbs or whatever you want in the garden. And I've got these set in a tray right now. I'll actually move these over so that I can work in this tray, because this can be, obviously, I'm dumping these things out. It can get a little bit messy. I have a package of labels and a garden marker that will work on that. Now, I will mark these with this marker because it's down here, but I've found it's actually best if you go back and on the other side of the same marker, you write it in with an actual pencil, and that works well. And then and the final thing I have here is the potting medium. I got my big bucket, and I have filled this up with Pro Mix BX, readily available stuff, and I've moistened it with hot water. I need to stir it in and get it all moistened up, and we'll be using that. So I'll start to fill the little containers, and then I'll come back and we'll start dumping these things out of their cups and putting them into the new pots. All right, so I've filled up 12 of these little square containers. Let's set these aside for now. And just because this is always a possibility that you can do, is these are the same cups that I used to start the seeds from ones that didn't work. So I emptied them out, cleaned the cups, and I just fill them up and give them a good tap again, just like I did when I was going to start the seeds. And I've got these cups available as well. So now we can take one of these. I'll start with the plantaginea here. And all you got to do is just kind of carefully dump them out and start to untangle them, right? These have made roots. You can see the roots there that are all the way to the bottom, which means they're going to be a little bit tangled up. I'm just going to break these apart, and as you lift them out, set them aside and start to count them so you know what you're working with. Pretty amazing how much roots you can get in this short amount of time. There's 3. 4 is a smaller one. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's pretty good. Did I mark on here? No. I had been trying to mark how many seeds I had planted on here. This one has a question mark, so clearly I failed in that. So now it's just a matter of, I've got 10 here, I've got 12 cups up here, I've got to figure out what to do with them. I'm going to take the biggest ones and put them in the bigger pots. I'm just going to pull this over here, make a hole down in the pot, put the hosta into it. Mash everything down a little bit, and there you go, there's a hosta. I'll continue with the rest of these, and then I'll come back and we'll do this streaker. All right, so I've already potted up the plantaginea seedlings and put them back under the lights. And these are the plantaginea hybrid seedlings that I will then put back under the lights. I've got room here because I got lots more of these to pot up. On this set of seedlings, I did decide that two of them were just a little small, so I'm not going to bother with planting those up. Now what I have is 1 cup of streaked seedlings, and I'll dump these out, and then I'll bring the camera forward so you can see what these are going to look like as I decide what to do to keep them. All right, with this cross again, there's a number of seedlings in here. Can I get it to focus on just this? There we go. And I'll dump these out as I did the others. These haven't grown quite as big, not surprising with streakers compared to the green ones. The roots haven't gotten all the way to the bottom on this one. So these are just going to fall apart this way. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So as I said, I actually tend to just keep 3 of my favorites out of these. So I'm going to look at these and decide. This one is most certainly just kind of all green and boring. Bye-bye. This one may be cute, but it's also just a little small. I should get the camera to focus just on these things. So I'll think about that one. This one seems to be obviously a keeper. It's growing well, has good streaking. So I'll keep this one back here. This is also one of the bigger ones and seems to show nice streaking. These are from Rosedale Blendmaster, and oftentimes they look an awful lot like the parent hosta until they grow on and get a little bit of character to them. This is a first generation hybrid now with Clovelly, which has nice ruffles, and the ruffles can be hard to show up. This is an interesting one in that if you look, if I can get it to focus on this first leaf, it looks like it had some nice streaking, but at this point now, this just looks like a greenie. So bye-bye to you. So far I've got 2 obvious keepers and 2 obvious discards, and 2 that I might think about growing on. And I think, in fact, I'm just not going to keep either of these. They seem a little puny. If I were breeding, in this case, for a dwarf hosta, then sometimes you do want to grab the ones that are growing kind of small in the hopes that they've gotten more of the mini hosta genes. But these, not so much, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I've got 2 to pot up. And what I might do is just use the same cup that I used, put everything back and put one of these in here and put the other one in another cup. All right, now I have these 2 streakers potted up, number 1 and number 2. You can obviously name things, keep your own nomenclature system the way you want, but what I tend to do is on the tag, I'll note the cross. And at this stage, the bigger one becomes number 1, and the next bigger one becomes number 2. And if I carry out to, in my first crosses when I was just learning, I carried these all the way out to 6 just because I didn't know what I was getting, would keep 6 from a cross. The plain green hybrids obviously won't get names or any sort of numbers. They'll all just sort of be random until they show whether they bloomed well and how the blooms are. So these I will keep inside for a little while longer. You'll be amazed at how quickly they grow once they've been potted up like this. But probably within the next week or so, I'll start to transition them outside in a shady place during the day. It's what today is the 4th of May here in the Mid-Atlantic region near Philadelphia. So depending on what your climate is like, wait until nighttime temperatures are certainly in the mid-50s, consistently in the mid-50s before you put them outside. So you don't really have to worry about hardening them off quite so much. Put them in a protected place, keep them well watered during the summer, and by fall, they'll be ready to go in the ground if you want to keep them. Or in the case of some of these, I'll be giving them away probably in the end of June. They'll be big enough to give away. So good luck with your seeds.